She sat at the back of the briefing hall, shoulders square but heart pounding, as the SEAL captain's voice cut through the silence. "Any combat pilots here?" The room, filled with soldiers hardened by battles, went still. Men shifted in their seats, eyes darting to one another, waiting for someone to rise. No one moved. Then, almost unnoticed, a figure stood, quiet, steady, and unassuming. It was her. The room froze. She was not the one anyone expected, not the one anyone imagined would answer such a call. Yet in that moment, courage found its form, not in noise or bravado, but in silence rising from the shadows. Before I take you further into this unforgettable story, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unseen strength of ordinary people, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Armed Forces Stories. Stories like this are worth remembering, and your support ensures they continue to be told. Her name was Lieutenant Sarah Blake. To many, she was just another name on the roster, a face in the crowd of uniforms. But behind that quiet exterior lay years of battles, some fought in the sky, others within herself. Sarah had been dismissed more than once, told that her dreams of flying combat missions were unrealistic, especially for a woman. In training, she had endured whispers that questioned her strength, laughter that tried to clip her wings before she ever took off. But Sarah didn't come from the kind of place where giving up was an option. She grew up with a single mother who worked 3 jobs, who taught her that resilience was not a choice, but a necessity. Sarah carried that fire with her, even when the world seemed determined to keep her grounded. The military had tested her in ways that went far beyond flying. There were days when she was overlooked, when her efforts seemed invisible, when the weight of proving herself every single day crushed her spirit. Unlike others who could lean on recognition or support, Sarah had to create her own strength in silence. Every push-up, every flight hour logged, every mission rehearsal was not just practice, it was survival. The pressure of expectations, the sting of doubt, the burden of always being underestimated, all of it forged her into something unbreakable. And yet even she didn't realize how much her quiet resilience would matter until that day in the hall. When she rose to her feet, the SEAL captain turned toward her, his sharp gaze softening for just a moment, as though he saw something familiar in her stance. The silence in the room grew heavier, every soldier waiting to see what would happen. She didn't flinch. She didn't boast. She simply stood, her posture saying what her voice did not. "I am here. I am ready." To some, it might have seemed small, but in that charged moment, it was everything. Her courage wasn't the kind that demanded attention. It was the kind that commanded respect without a single word spoken. What many in that room didn't know was that Sarah had already faced death in the skies more than once. On a mission overseas, her aircraft had been struck mid-flight. Smoke filled the cockpit, alarms screamed, and the ground raced toward her. But she had steadied her hands, fought the controls, and pulled her team back from the edge of tragedy. She landed battered, shaken, but alive. Stories of her courage never spread because she never told them. That was her way. She believed that duty was not for applause, but for service. And yet on that day, her decision to rise would bring all of those hidden truths into the light. The captain, seasoned by years of combat, asked her to step forward. Whispers filled the air. Questions, doubts, even disbelief. But as she walked, her steps were calm, steady, unwavering. She carried herself with the kind of dignity that silence often builds. When she finally stood before him, the captain nodded once. It wasn't a gesture of authority, but of acknowledgement, as though he understood exactly what it meant for her to stand in that hall. And then something remarkable happened. He saluted her first. The room gasped. SEAL captains didn't salute junior officers in public. But this wasn't about rank. It was about respect earned in ways that could not be measured by titles. The days that followed turned Sarah into a quiet legend among her peers. Soldiers began to look at her differently, not as the woman who stood at the back of the room, but as the pilot who embodied courage in its purest form. Her presence became a reminder that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and still, it moves mountains. She never sought recognition. But recognition found her in the way others carried themselves after her example, in the way silence now held a different weight in that base. She had redefined what it meant to answer a call. But Sarah herself remained unchanged. She continued to train, to fly, to serve, carrying the same humility that had always defined her. When asked later why she stood, her answer was simple: because someone had to. That simplicity was her power. She did not rise for herself. She rose for everyone who had ever been overlooked, underestimated, or silenced. In her quiet strength, countless others found their voice. And so, what began as a simple question, "Any combat pilots here?" became a story that outlived the moment. It was no longer about a single room or a single salute. It was about the countless unseen soldiers who hold the line, who carry the weight of duty without recognition. Sarah's story became theirs too, a testament to the idea that greatness is not loud, but unshakably steady. If this story touched your heart, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe to Armed Forces Stories. Stories like Sarah's remind us that real strength often comes from the places we least expect. Your support ensures these voices, often unheard, continue to inspire the world. And before we close, I have a special request. Drop a comment below. Tell us what this story meant to you, or share a moment when someone's quiet courage inspired you. Your words might just be the spark that reminds another soul of their own strength. Thank you for watching Armed Forces Stories, where the unseen become unforgettable.